Young ladies and gentlemen, greetings to you all from wherever you are in the world. The situation is very serious. What the people of Burkina Faso have just uncovered shows just how serious the situation is when it comes to funding and supporting terrorist activities in the Sahel. These images you see here are images that were presented by the minister in charge of security, Minister Mahamadou Sana. And the statements made by Minister Mahamadou Sana surprised me and surprised the world. A total of 900 motorcycles, along with 164 tricycles, were seized by the authorities. These vehicles were found to be inside 3 large trucks, all of which were subsequently confiscated by officials during the operation. You know, these trucks were actually headed to the city of Korogo, which is located in the Republic of Côte d'Ivoire in West Africa. They were traveling to Korogo. Inside these trucks, the security services discovered this type, I was going to say, of motorcycle. And this type of motorcycle is regulated in the in Burkina Faso, because the army has observed that these are the types of motorcycles that the terrorists use in the field. The army regularly faces field activities against the terrorists, and every time they go out into the field, it's these brand new motorcycles that are there, used by the terrorists. So, quite wisely, Comrade President Ibrahimtraoré made the important decision to carefully and thoughtfully regulate these motorcycles. Those who sell these motorcycles must have prior authorization from the state. And when they sell them, the state closely monitors how they are selling. Aren't they delivering them to the compost, etc.? So anyone found with this type of motorcycle becomes suspicious. They try to check and see if the person has authorization. So it was in this context that these 3 trucks heading towards the city of Korogo were intercepted. According to statements from Minister Mahamadou Sana, they looked inside these 3 trucks. They saw that indeed these motorcycles were inside the 3 trucks. 900 motorcycles and 164 tricycles. So they had the truck stopped. Of course, quite naturally, during a routine inspection as part of their standard procedure, they asked the truck drivers, since they weren't the owners, they were just drivers, they asked them, who is the owner or who are the owners? Go tell the owner that the authorities want to see them. So initially, the goal was to see the owners and then ask them, where is your authorization? If they are authorized, it means the state authorized them. That means there is no problem. So at the beginning, it was with the intention of carrying out a verification. I'm telling you, the situation is very serious. Watch this video very carefully until the end. Let me give you a few clarifications first before we go deeper. What's strange about this whole thing is that ever since the drivers left, they abandoned everything. Their owner is no longer known, no one has come to claim it, no one has come forward to say it belongs to them. And even if perhaps the person doesn't have authorization, at least they could come forward. We're going to dig deeper, but please let me give you a few clarifications. So the statement was made on May 23rd, 2025, within the Republican Security Companies Group, CRS, in Ouagadougou. The Minister of Security, Mr. Mahamadou Sana, announced the seizure. These vehicles have been intercepted since April 7th. Since April 7th. It's been almost 2 months in the end. Since April 7th, 2025. While these vehicles were heading toward the city of Korogo in the Republic of Côte d'Ivoire. Up until now, to this day, no claim has been made. That is to say, according to the minister's explanations, they asked the truck drivers to go and call the owners. But if these aren't substances, if these aren't vehicles trying to cross the border illegally, why hasn't the owner come forward yet? In fact, according to the explanations given by the minister, what is the new strategy? Since these vehicles are carefully, strictly, and rigorously regulated on the Burkina Faso side, one could even say that their sale is almost prohibited. So what do the terrorists do? They are in contact with one of their commercial leaders who buys these vehicles, the motorcycles, the tricycles. You know, tricycles are used to transport a lot of goods. Simple motorcycles are just for transporting the terrorists. They buy them and send them toward a neighboring city, a city that is in a neighboring country. And if they are set up in a neighboring country, the controls won't be that strict. So they position themselves in a city that is not too far from Burkina. And then from there, they distribute these motorcycles to the terrorists. And the terrorists use these motorcycles to come back and do their dirty work in Burkina and the Sahel. So there is very close monitoring by the Burkinabe authorities regarding the sale of these motorcycles. And so that's how, during this routine inspection since April 7th, the 3 trucks that were intercepted, they asked for the owner to be brought in, told them to go tell the owner to come. The authorities want to see them, but they never came back. Never, in any case. For now, they still haven't come back. It's been almost 2 months, and we're talking about commercial goods. If it was really intended for commerce and the merchant in question was in compliance with the law, they would have come forward, because this is a fortune. The minister estimated its value at over 1 billion CFA francs. So no one would willingly abandon such a fortune unless, and only unless, their life was in danger. So the authorities believe that this is therefore an activity aimed at financing and encouraging the terrors. And what hurts the most is that the name of the Republic of Côte d'Ivoire is involved. And I truly hope that this is a big lie, since people are used to saying that the Ouattara regime is involved because France gives the orders. Because we all know that France is at the root of this terror affair. But with such a level of evidence, I really don't want to believe it. I really don't want to believe it. No, not at all. Yes, because Africa is above all about brotherhood. So, according to the findings of the investigations announced by the minister, these vehicles were intended for high-risk areas and would finance terrorism in the sub-region. Here is the clarification provided by the minister, and the minister went on to say, any individual or legal entity involved in financing terrorism will face the full force of the law. And so the minister also announced that the seized vehicles will be withdrawn and made available to the defense and security units engaged in the fight against terrorism in order to strengthen their operational capabilities in the field. So it's complicated, ladies and gentlemen. And I honestly tell you that I don't want to believe it. That, no, it still hurts a lot. You see, when Burkina Faso is fighting with all its might to get out of the suffering that the terrorists are putting them through, and then we see that there are other Africans who are truly, genuinely there encouraging, I don't even want to believe it, who are in fact really there supporting, I don't want to believe it. Well, certainly, the Ivorian regime is not involved, certainly. That's it, since the soils are trying to settle almost everywhere. I still think that perhaps the composts have settled in this area. Maybe they're even operating without the Ivorian government being aware of it. So, the Ivorian government must get involved. The Ivorian government needs to get involved, just as the city of Kourougo in Côte d'Ivoire mentioned, so that the Ivorian government can help carry out the necessary investigations to find out exactly where these goods were headed and who was supposed to receive them. And for what purpose, for what objective? And why, up until now, has the owner, the one who was ultimately supposed to receive them, why has the owner, you see, still refused to come forward? I believe that, and we have to consider the possibility that the Ivorian regime is not involved. And so, to demonstrate its good faith, the Ivorian regime must get involved. Get involved, do the work on its own territory. Because at this point, the facts are clear. These vehicles have been seized. For nearly 2 months, no one has come forward to claim them. Because if they come to claim them, they know they will face the full force of the law. They know they've fallen into a net, into a trap. So how are they going to come back? But since we already have the documents for the different trucks, we have a lot of information. A collaboration between Côte d'Ivoire and Burkina Faso would really help to unmask the rest of the network. But if Côte d'Ivoire even refuses to take the initiative, then, in that case, the world will understand a lot of things. Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, here are today's top stories. I'll be back with more news for you shortly. That was the voice of your one and only samurai.